In the shadow of North America's steepest mountains, two superpowers gambled everything on their own steam titans. One to crush 3,600 tons unassisted through Utah's Wasatch, the other to defy -40 beneath deadly Canadian snowdrifts. But which machine truly ruled its domain? The answer could rewrite how we judge the giants of the steam age, and it is nowhere near as simple as legend claims. In 1941, Union Pacific's main line between Ogden, Utah, and Green River, Wyoming became a critical artery for America's war effort. Rail yards overflowed with tanks, artillery, and endless strings of boxcars. The Wasatch Range loomed ahead, a 65-mile climb rising from 4,300 to nearly 7,000 feet, with a relentless grade of 1.14%. Every day, the demands of war pushed the line to its limit. Standard locomotives struggled, often needing 2 or 3 engines coupled together just to inch heavy trains up the mountain. This patchwork slowed everything down, clogged the tracks with helper engines, and forced crews to wait for hours at sidings. Wartime traffic soared, but the bottleneck in the Wasatch threatened to choke off the flow of crucial supplies to the West Coast. Union Pacific's solution was bold: design a single locomotive powerful enough to haul 3,600 tons of freight unassisted over the entire grade. The target was not just a number, it was a lifeline. Engineers calculated that only an articulated machine with 16 driving wheels and immense tractive effort could grip the rails and keep trains moving at 20 to 25 miles per hour. The goal was clear: eliminate the need for helper engines, cut delays, and move more freight faster than ever before. With war raging overseas, the pressure was on to deliver a machine that could turn the Wasatch from a barrier into a conquered path. That challenge would give birth to a new kind of giant, the Union Pacific Big Boy. North of the border, the mountains posed a different kind of threat. Rogers Pass, at the heart of the Selkirks, was a place where winter could bring everything to a standstill. Each year, storms swept through the narrow valleys, dropping up to 12 meters of snow. Avalanche paths sliced straight across the tracks, and the memory of the 1910 disaster when 58 railway workers lost their lives in a single night never faded from Canadian Pacific's mind. Even after the Connaught Tunnel carried trains beneath the summit, the approaches remained exposed to slides and deep cold. Temperatures in this territory routinely plunged below -30 degrees Celsius, and in the worst Arctic outbreaks, the mercury flirted with 40 degrees below zero. In such conditions, metal contracted and snapped. Steam pipes froze solid, and snow packed itself into every crevice of a locomotive. Trains could be buried to their stacks overnight. To keep the line open, Canadian Pacific built an arsenal of defenses. 31 snow sheds stretched over 6 kilometers of track, rotary plows stood ready at division points, and crews learned to work by lantern light in blizzard conditions. But for the engines themselves, survival meant more than brute force. The Selkirks were given smooth, semi-streamlined metal jackets, not for speed, but to shield vital piping and valves from ice and blowing snow. Every detail, from insulated lines to carefully shrouded cylinders, was shaped by the need to keep steam flowing in the dead of winter. Unlike the sun-baked Wasatch, these mountains demanded machines that could endure, adapt, and keep moving when the world turned white and silent. Union Pacific's design team, led by Otto Jabelmann, faced a single demand: build a locomotive that could muscle 3,600 tons up the Wasatch without help. Their answer began at the wheels. The Big Boy was known as the 4884 arrangement, with 4 leading wheels, 2 sets of 8 driving wheels, and a 4-wheel trailing truck, spreading the engine's massive weight and giving it both stability and traction on sharp mountain curves. Articulation was the key. The front engine set could pivot independently, allowing the Big Boy's long boiler to snake through tight bends where rigid frames would have locked up and derailed. This was not just clever geometry, it was a necessity for the twisting canyons and tunnels of the Wasatch. At the heart of the machine sat a firebox so large it could burn through 12 tons of coal an hour. The firebox was supported by a four-wheel trailing truck, giving it the length and width to produce the steam needed for continuous high-speed freight work. Feeding this furnace by hand was out of the question. Instead, a mechanical stoker, a steel auger driven by powerful motors, relentlessly moved coal from the tinder into the firebox, keeping the heat steady no matter how steep the climb or how long the run. This system meant the big boy could sustain full power for hours, pushing through the grade without pause. Every detail was shaped by the demands of the route. The high-capacity boiler, the articulated frame, and the mechanical stoker worked together to turn raw coal and water into relentless forward motion. The result was an engine that did not just meet Union Pacific's wartime brief, it redefined what a single locomotive could do on the toughest stretch of railroad in America. Bitter cold shaped every line of the Selkirk's design. On the climb out of Revelstoke, winter storms could drive temperatures into the -30s, sometimes flirting with 40 below. In that deep freeze, exposed pipes and valves could seize solid overnight, and blowing snow would pack itself into every gap. For Canadian Pacific, brute force alone was not enough. The engine had to survive hour after hour in a world where metal turned brittle and steam lines threatened to freeze. To meet these demands, the Selkirks wore smooth, semi-streamlined jackets of steel plate. It was not for speed or style. It was a shield. The jacket wrapped around the boiler and running gear, enclosing vital piping and appliances. Underneath, thick layers of insulation trapped heat, keeping water and steam moving even as the wind howled across the pass. Crews reported that in the worst storms, the jacket could mean the difference between a train making it to field or sitting stranded with frozen injectors. Inside the cab, extra insulation lined the walls and floor, offering a small island of warmth for engineers and firemen working long shifts through the night. Windows were double glazed to fight frost, and every access hatch was carefully sealed against drifting snow. Even the air brakes and sanders were fitted with heated lines to keep them working when everything else was locked in ice. Every detail was a direct answer to the Canadian winter. Where other locomotives might stall or freeze, the Selkirk was built to keep moving. Reliable, resilient, and ready for whatever the mountains delivered. Big Boy's reputation was built on raw force. 16 massive driving wheels pressed more than 500,000 pounds onto the rails, turning every ounce of weight into traction. In railroad terms, this is adhesion, the grip that lets a locomotive turn horsepower into forward motion without spinning its wheels. With a starting tractive effort of about 135,000 pounds, Big Boy could wrestle 3,600 tons up the Wasatch grade, alone, where lesser engines would stall or slip. Every trip over the mountain meant a black column of coal smoke trailing behind, the signal of a furnace devouring 12 tons of coal an hour. At full throttle, the exhaust thundered through the valleys, shaking windows in towns miles away. This was industrial might in motion, an engine designed not for elegance, but for the simple, unyielding task of moving the heaviest loads America could throw at it. On the Wasatch, nothing matched Big Boy's ability to turn sheer mass into unstoppable momentum. Selkirks did more than just power heavy freight through the mountains. On the winding grades between Revelstoke and Field, these locomotives filled a rare double role, pulling both massive freight trains and the Canadian Pacific's premier passenger expresses. Photographs from the era show Selkirks leading long strings of boxcars one day, then gliding at the head of varnished passenger coaches the next. This dual service capability set them apart from many of their American counterparts, which were often confined to a single type of work. Oil firing and winterized jackets meant Selkirks could be trusted to keep schedules even in the harshest weather, whether hauling wheat to Vancouver or carrying travelers across the Rockies. The trade-off was clear. While the Selkirk gave up some of the raw pulling power seen in larger American giants, it gained the flexibility to adapt to whatever the railroad demanded. In the unforgiving mountain environment, versatility became its own kind of strength. Today, Big Boy thunders on and Selkirk stands silent, but both challenge us to rethink what it takes to overcome extremes. As railways face new frontiers in climate, energy, and innovation, their legacy is clear. Ambition still decides who conquers the mountains. Which titan would you choose?